Welcome to the Big D Speaks. Today we are going to be watching Roy Keane and listening to him talk about signing for Manchester United and how that came about and how he left Nottingham Forest under a cloud, and also how he pissed off Kenny Dalglish, who threatened him with his life. Perhaps I'm exaggerating a little bit there, but anyway, let's go over to Roy. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. And if you've got any questions or if you've got any recommendations, if you want me to talk about or watch anything or comment or react on anything you think is suitable to this channel or you would like to hear me react to, please put it in the comments. I read all of the comments. Anyway, over to Roy Keane.
The club. And I want 250,000.
Did you get it in the end?
I got it in the end.
And you put the relegation clause in as well?
I had a clause in, yeah, that if we got relegated up, so I could leave for 3.5. Mistake I made is I said I want to go for 3.5 million, but it was after the 1st of September, which was after the European deadline. So that's why I had to be 3 points. That's why United had to give the extra bit to get the deal done. Blackburn offered 4. That's why I nearly signed for Blackburn.
Wow.
Blackburn offered 4.
Who was the manager then?
Kenny Dalglish. Well, I met Kenny. But it's amazing in life. You're talking about. So Forrest agreed to sell me. Brian Clough left in the time, and Frank Clark, and it was all fun and games going on then when the clubs are in for me.
Yeah.
Met Blackburn. Kenny Dalglish, huge respect. Blackburn were making noises. Signed my deal at Forest. We obviously got relegated. During the summer, met Kenny, and they agreed a $4 million deal with Forest. Forest were delighted because obviously Blackburn were getting the 500,000 extra. They're not waiting until the 1st of September. It's just they wanted me there for pre-season, of course. Kenny Dalglish, I think I was on 250 at Forest. I said to Kenny eventually, said, we can give you 400. I think I asked for 500. Again, I heard Shearer was on that. I don't know about what he's getting, but anyway. But they agreed, though, eventually I says 400. I was on 250 at Forest. I went 400, not bad, like nice little pay rise. And I said, I was sitting in the office like this, and I went, okay, I'll do the deal. I said, brilliant, shook hands. And they said, it was a Friday evening. And they said, all the people in the office are gone, we can't draw the contract up.
Wow. That's it. They're to blame.
So I get a flight. I think, I don't know if I flew back the next morning, Saturday morning. I said, well, come back next week, we'll sort it out. This is not good on me, because I shook hands with Kenny Dalglish, and somebody I've huge respect for. I flew back to Cork, went out Saturday night, had a good night, saying I'm going to Blackburn, I'm getting a nice little pay rise. Sunday morning, I'm in bed, not in great form. Phone goes, my mother comes up, she went for Alex Ferguson on the phone for you. So I come down, I said, I've been trying to speak to you about Forest and whatever. I said, well, I've agreed to go to Blackburn. Even have you signed anything? I said, no. And he said, would you meet me tomorrow? I flew to Manchester on the Monday to meet him. Kiddo picked me up at the airport, went to Ferguson's house.
Kiddo.
Yeah, not a regret.
But just, I'm surprised that you didn't see that deal through the way you are with Kenny and say, look, you know what I mean? Because as you, the way in which...
Yeah, you're right.
Which you are.
But I also had to step back and go... at least speak to Man United.
Yeah.
At least speak to Man United and take it
Still
from
with
there.
no agent, right?
Still with no agent.
Can't believe
And, and also I'm jeopardising the Blackburn deal because what happened, of course, this dragged on for a couple of months. I had to go back pre-season with Forest because United didn't want to match Blackburn because
the first time United had come in? Probably.
Yeah, but I've been told they were trying to get in touch with Forest. They were like not getting back to him with messages. And obviously Brian,
is that because of the money that they offered?
Before Frank Clark came in.
Because they
to be fair, you can't blame Roy Keane for listening to Man United at the time. We just won the league, 92-93, and the team was still relatively young enough to go on and win another title the following year. And Blackburn weren't really a force yet. I mean, yeah, they had a good team. They had Alan Shearer, but yeah. And to be fair, it's Blackburn's fault for letting people go home early on the Friday and not pushing it through. Kenny Dalglish made the same mistake there by not getting that deal done on that Friday and driving round to the secretary's house or getting in a taxi and come to the offices to sign Roy Keane. That's the same mistake that Alex Ferguson made when he tried to sign Paul Gascoigne. Because Paul Gascoigne and Alex Ferguson shook hands on a deal back in 88 or whenever it was. And Gascoigne said, yeah, I'll definitely sign for you, Mr. Ferguson, not a problem. But that allowed Teddy Venables and, God rest his soul, and Tottenham Hotspur to sneak in and steal him. And it's just the same. It's just the same thing in here. Only it's on the shoes on the other foot now for Fergie. So he's managed to get his man because someone stuck to a handshake deal. You just sign get them to sign the contract. But hey, I'm glad Kenny Dalglish bollocks that up, because what a player we got, eh? Anyway, let's carry on.
United's point would have been going, well, your clause is 3.5, but Forest, to be sure, was saying, yeah, it's after the 1st of September. If you want to do the deal a bit earlier, if you do it after 1st of September, especially for United, I wouldn't be able to play in Europe. I think that was the cut-off point. You have to sign.
Jesus.
So that's why you ended up being in.
You have to pick Man United, don't you, ahead of Blackburn?
Do you know what? Yes, Jimmy, but I shook
Exactly.
And
Was
it
it Kenny that was the sway for you? Or
it was
like
no, Blackburn were making noises, and I thought Blackburn, I could see it. I wasn't. And obviously they'd agreed.
Yeah.
It's not as if I was. It'd be different. No, you'd be a bit smarter. You go, I'll just wait. I'll see who else is out there. But I was a bit innocent, and I thought. But then I went back to Forest, and I was learning. Then Forest were saying Forest owed me about 600,000 or 700,000. Forest saying, yeah, you agreed these deals, but we're not giving you the few bob. And I went, well, I'm not leaving unless you give my few bob. That's what I'm entitled to. And then we'd a game with Ireland. So this is all I'm guessing towards the end of the season, internationals toward the end of the season. And I'd know this is where I eventually got someone to help me with the contract. So Blackburn said they'd give me 400, and United at the time were at 300. So I'm at 250 at Forest. United was saying we can get a deal on them, Forest, bear with us. And I was like, okay, I'm jeopardising a deal with Blackburn here. And when I was away with Ireland, we did an international game at the end of the season.
Were they going to give you the same money or more?
No, United, nowhere near it. No, United were offering me 300,000.
Wow.
And I was saying, but Blackburn, they were saying, well, take the 400 at Blackburn. I went,
So is this dragging on through a whole...
This is towards when I say
Kenny
this is
$100,000 a year to play football.
at the end of the season, like a couple of weeks after.
They're on that a week now.
International match, 3 or 4. Because I remember being away at the international team and speaking to some of the players. They were like, because I remember they saying, where are you off to? And I went, and I was kind of explaining, going, well, Blackburn have offered me 400, but United are 300. And Dave O'Leary was in the group, and Dave went, who's doing your deal? I went, I'm doing it myself. And he went, he said, would you use I've got Michael Kennedy, who is a solicitor in London. He's done all my contracts. I said, I'll speak to him. So I rang him literally that night from there. I said, Michael, this is the situation. All right, I've been reading about it. I went, if you could speak to Martin Edwards about it. I think it was Martin who obviously doing the deals. He went, and he got back to me the next day. He went, United will go to 350. I went, I'll go to United. But then obviously I had the thing with Blackburn. And what I should have done then was rang Blackburn straight away. But I kind of dragged that out.
Michael, will you phone Blackburn?
No. And I didn't get back. And you know what? About a week or two later, I was going on holidays. And I remember it. And again, Kenny rang me. And I remember I was going to tie an apple with 2 lads from Forest.
Did you send a postcard?
And he often I said, Kenny, asked. To be fair, I felt about that big. I said, I should have got in touch with you.
Was you scared to phone him, Roy?
A bit embarrassed, of course.
Yeah.
And I don't think United was quite over the line yet. Yeah. So this was the game I was playing. I'm trying to keep United on side or whatever. And Kenny went mad. Absolutely. He
on the phone to you?
Yeah. He says, and I remember
What did he call you?
He just something like, you're a fucking joke. No one does this to Kenny Dalglish. But he was right. And he was saying, we've shook hands on the deal. And I remember he said something like, in Scotland, if you shake hands, it's a deal. And I was like,
But you would think that as well, wouldn't you?
You would. Yeah, but if I was a manager, not until the deal is signed, I suppose. But yeah, I didn't.
You agreed to come though, and you shook hands.
Yeah, but I've done that with players. Yeah. I've been a manager. They said, yeah, and then the following day they're going to somebody else. Listen, we all know. But if things were done that night, I would have signed for Blackburn.
Yeah.
So listen, they have to take responsibility.
Exactly.
Like that wouldn't happen to a club. No, everyone would stay behind. It's not.
It's Kenny Dalglish's fault.
So they have to look at
Early
themselves.
on a Friday.
Yeah, you know.
Lost out on 19.
I'm sure. But Kenny was going mad, and he was going. And I said, look, I remember saying, Kenny, I'm going on my holidays tomorrow. I said, listen, I'm going to enjoy myself. I sign from when I get back. So I said, done. He's, I'll fucking find you. Huh? I was denying that for a week looking over my shoulder. I swear.
It's like Taken.
I swear.
What's he going to do?
Listen, and obviously I've seen Kenny since, and listen, a brilliant guy. Again, huge respect. I can't say that enough about him. And then but I still had to go back pre-season with Forest, and Forest was saying, still not giving me the few bob that I was owed, but eventually they went, listen, here's your few bob, and obviously I'd done the United deal, obviously eventually, but it dragged on for a good number of weeks. I had to go back to Forest pre-season, and I was training with the youth team. For Frank Clark, I went back, and Frank Clark was going mad. Frank was the new manager after Brian Clough. He said, everything we've done for you. And I was like, Frank, you've been here 2 minutes, man. I said, listen, I don't want to play in the championship, and the World Cup was coming up. I said, listen, and again, it was just...
So did they... that was over the few bob.
The few bob.
Yeah. They wanted their few bob, didn't they?
They got their 3.75 off United, but basically I was entitled to what was left of my contract. Yeah. So everyone was saying to me, don't sign the new deal. But I knew if I signed a deal at Forest and we got relegated and someone came in for me, I'd kind of win. I'd get me a few bob at United. And obviously Forest would give me like a few bob to go, which I felt I was entitled to. Yeah. But I think Forest, certainly Brian Clough always held that against me, that I left with, what, 600,000 or 700,000, whatever I got, having only been there kind of 2 or 3 years as a young player. He definitely felt I probably didn't deserve that.
Got sold for 3.75. They can't.
Of course, I didn't. Yeah. Listen, they
British record at the time.
For 40,000.
Where did the boss take you when he first met you?
I went to his house.
And he didn't take you to Old Trafford or anything, just to his house?
Just to his house, and obviously he made the point. And my family are big United fans. I was a Spurs fan, but my dad and my brother. So once I went over to meet him, you're thinking, it's hard then to turn down United, whatever with the few bob involved. But when I met him, I was like, and obviously Kiddo was there and chatting about where United are going. He said, I think we'll win the league. Chatting about we can win the league again. He said, you would help us, but I think you'd help us in Europe. All the usual chit-chat you'd have with a manager. So I was like, yeah, sounds okay. But I was trying to be business-like as well with it. I was trying to think what's best for me. And the beauty is when I went to United, for all my little, not hang-ups, but about the deals involved and not being a United fan. Again, I was Spurs. Yeah. So when I went to United, they just won the league. But as soon as I walked into United, I loved it.
How was your Spurs? Why Spurs when everybody else is United, especially Ireland?
Well, when I was younger...
Bizarre.
You know what? Everyone in Ireland, Liverpool, United, Celtic, of course.
Arsenal.
And I used to get Arsenal, of course, and obviously big Irish connection with all these clubs. Yeah. And there was good Irish connection with Spurs, a lot of players there. So I just was a bit younger and I used to get a lift off a friend of mine. His dad used to follow Spurs. I remember thinking, yeah, I like Spurs.
Who was the player that you liked?
Oh, there was a few at the time. Hoddle, Clive Allen. I followed Spurs. Yeah, all these players, watched closely and had a soft spot for Spurs. Always have. But the United stuff then just fell into place. And United just won the league. You're talking about time and you're on about United, players going to United now.
Yes.
I went to United on the back of them winning the league.
Yeah.
And as soon as I walked into United, the players, I was like, oh, this is it. Because I had 3 years of Forest was amazing and I was kind of a good pro and a couple of cup finals. But I'd be watching other teams winning stuff and I need to be in there. I need to be... But not that United was top of my list of where clubs to go to, but I just thought, and when I walked into United, I loved everything about it.
How did Alex Ferguson see you as a player when he sat down with you? Did he say there's things you need to work on? I want to mould you into more defensive?
I don't think he said too much of that because obviously they just won the league. I suppose he'd be probably looking at Robbo. Robbo would have been 33, 34 at the time. And ironically, when I met the players, and I always remember meeting Robbo, obviously it was kind of brilliant in one way. When I was shaking his hand, I remember Robbo was looking at me and I'm looking at him, but he's looking and going, because it happened to me later on when players come, they're going,
I'm here to take your place.
It is. But it was great because, as you know, the best competition is from within. So when I met Robbo, and again, I was like, yeah, I'm here to take... And there was no guarantees.
Yeah.
But obviously, Incy was there in the dressing room and everything about the club. My first pre-season, I thought, this suits me down to...
I remember, sorry guys, I remember, it might have been Brian Robson's book or something I read, and he was telling a story about you, that where you're asking what did the manager say where your game needed to come. It was almost like Brian Robson spoke to you over a few drinks about saying if you want to become a top midfielder and you want to take my place, you can't just be a box-to-box.
Yeah.
You've got to be the guy who actually...
I think that was in Roy Keane's
They were the
book,
chats I had. But I think before I went to
Robson's.
United, I think Alex Ferguson used to always speak to players, and you would say it as well, Nev. He'd ask players about who they played against. So they said to Rob and say, who gave you a tough game? And apparently they said, well, when I was at Forest, I was causing 1 or 2 problems. So they'd remember that and the Rooney stuff. So he would get feedback. But obviously them sit-down conversations then came with Robbo when I went to the club. And Robbo made that point to me. And sometimes you just, again, at the timing of the chat, it might have been over a few pints, there's a good chance. And I think did Robbo leave then the following summer? Obviously Robbo carried on. Went to obviously Middlesbrough player manager for a number of years. And Robbo spoke to me about, what about your build-up plan? I went, no, I remember saying, and at United, my first year, again, I was doing what I was doing at Forest. And it was working because Incy would sit deep or whatever. I played with Robbo midfield. So my game was, and I probably didn't want to complicate it. And, I didn't have the belief I could be that, kind of get involved in the build-up. I thought, no, it's my get-up was, just get forward.
Yeah.
Was he the biggest influence when you first joined on you?
Robbo, no, I wouldn't go that far. No, I think it was the whole dressing room, it was the environment that I was that I loved. I loved the training, I loved the intensity, kiddo sessions, the banter, the badge, the history, the cliff. I remember going, it just suited me. United suited everything that I stood for.
Did it feel like home?
It was a perfect fit for me. I can't describe it any more than that. And I loved the dressing room. I loved all the lads in the dressing room. Sparky, everyone, Dennis Irwin. There was lads and I went, oh, fucking this will do for me.
Where did number 16 come?
Wow, what a team that was Roy Keane went into at Manchester United. I mean, just think about that team. It was Peter Schmeichel, it was Paul Parker, it was Steve Bruce, it was Gary Pallister, it was Dennis Irwin, Andrei Kanchelskis, remember him? He was rapid. Giggsy on the left, you had Keane, and you had Paul Ince and Eric Cantona and Mark Hughes up front. That was some team that he went into, and it's just an absolute shame that at the time, in European football, you only had the 3 foreigner rule. So Manchester United couldn't play their full strength in Europe because that team would have given any team a run for its money in Europe around that time. Because I think in '94 it was AC Milan that won the Champions League and they beat Barcelona. Well, they were a good side. Anyway, point being, we'd have done a lot better if we could have played our full strength side. Anyway, if you like this video, please subscribe. I will be posting more content like this in due course. Thanks for watching.